Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Satsang. Let's make some silence first. Let go. If you're sincere, letting go will always be the best thing. Whatever is distracting you, whatever is demanding too much attention or a little of attention, that which disturbs, let go. There's only crumbs to lose, nothing else, just crumbs. So once again, good morning everyone. Today we're going to talk about sacrifice. A very complicated subject for many, but very simple in essence. For the seeker of truth, let's start like this. There's only sacrifice, and there's no such thing as sacrifice. They seem opposite, but they are not. They speak about understandings. We may even say that it is through sacrifice that the real seeker of truth takes birth, through the fire of sacrifice. And this is a complicated subject for many people, apparently. And I usually don't answer these questions because I understand where they're coming from, so no point. But I will, for the sake of others, answer this question. It was a question sent. Will not read it. It talks about sacrifice. First of all, there's the idea that God these days is not really talked about, but okay, the source, the self. It's like the infinite pile of crumbs. So the character is moving through his life, collecting crumbs, worldly crumbs, all sorts of crumbs, and then he discovers spiritual crumbs, the crown of all crumbs. And that if reached, it represents the infinite pile of crumbs, and it doesn't. It really doesn't. These are worldly values that are being transferred to spirituality. Not even transferred, it is spirituality being thought for wrong values, disaligned values, through confusion, misconception. And today, well, spirituality has become a commodity, something that everyone can buy, and or even if it isn't bought, if it is given, that piles up to this dream of worldly happiness. And by worldly happiness, it doesn't mean material happiness. It is worldly because of the values that are behind it. Like there's the expression of the American dream, it's the spiritual American dream. And then with certain teachings, seekers have more difficulties, like one of the questions was, but does God want us to sacrifice? It doesn't happen that way. Of course he does. And he doesn't. That's the thing. But you see, the crumbs that you are holding on to, forgetting the magic of life, without understanding, not even just understanding, without giving yourself the possibility to see in practical terms this in your life, as life is sustained by the divine. You think you're sustaining your life, you're doing your things, building this, doing that, securing this, securing that, and life is being sustained by God. It is of divine origin. And you're holding on to a lot of precious things according to your level of consciousness, but those are just crumbs. And you cannot go deeper. Your process cannot become alive if you don't turn your back onto these things. If you continue with the same habits of providing the needs the nurturing, the foods for your dependencies, for your illusions? How can you reach the source? How can you know God? How can you know yourself? These are all expressions for the same. But if you're invested, constantly investing in delusion, holding on to illusion, how will it be possible? It won't. Simple as that. You see, by logic, you can make many things seem logical and practical and make it happen. But in practical terms, it doesn't work like that. You see this many times, where you see something which is logical, and then it really doesn't work like that. And you see that your logic was missing a few parts. So it is the same. So when you understand that life is sustained by the divine, that your time is to go back to that divine state, your natural state, letting go of that which is unnatural. It is your drama, your adventure, all this of the life of the character. But from where you stand, what does that mean? To secure all your interests, holding on to them as you meditate, or even meditation, it's, well, out of reach for the majority. Not because it cannot be practiced, because the logic is stopping it. So the sacrifice is letting go of your crumbs. It doesn't matter if it is pennies or empires, crumbs. It is about letting go of these crumbs. And the sacrifice is for the deluded one. And it is the one who needs it, of course, so that it can see the magic of life, that it can awaken the spiritual process. It cannot cross the river with a feet in two canoes, one feet in each canoe. So, and thus God wants you to sacrifice. Of course, well, you believe that God wants the highest to you, and you're right. But you also believe that you know what the highest is. And for that, you believe that you and God are in agreement of what that highest is. And whatever comes that contradicts your narrative and God's narrative, of course, then it must be wrong. God wants you to let go of that and go back home. But for you, as an infant, you will cry, you will grieve, you will go through hell to let go of those crumbs. And if God wants that, of course, because how will you reach the highest then? And when the spiritual life of the process awakens, it becomes very different. You see, because it is a learning process. Without it, logic plays. Well, it plays you because the mind is there to protect illusion, not to remove it, to protect it. So without the life of the process, which is a teacher, more or less, there's nothing to contradict the main narrative. And the main narrative will be serving the purpose of maintaining illusion. Because when the life of the process is there, you will see things more close to what they are, how they work. And you will see clearly that wanting to go through the walls that arise inside you, you will find the identification with a part that doesn't really want it, for example, or, as I will explain later, answering another question, you will see all your precious objects, animated or inanimated objects, that you know that there's a pulling because the process is alive or becoming alive. So a pulling starts to a center where you want to go deeper and deeper. And there's something there that knows that if you continue in that direction, if you stop giving, taking care of the other things, you will lose them. But if there's no life of the process, for all that it's worth, it's just a potential seeker of truth, just a potential. That means a worldly person with different aspirations, without seeing the steps, the lion steps. That's the only thing. And in that sense, it is just a matter of adding up. There's no subtracting, there's only adding. Subtracting is bad. Adding is good. So this is more or less what determines. So sacrifice equals lost, wrong. God giving blessings, adding to what I already have, good. And this logic cannot take you far. And it doesn't. Because there's no one there to go further. So like a child that is attached to some kind of object or habit, which is bad, taking it away, it will be for the best, but that will create suffering in the child, at least in that period of time, to cut that dependency. So it is with what you call sacrifice. So in a sense, in the beginning, if you don't sacrifice all your precious objects, whatever you can, and you continue and you go through, there's no life there present. So what you will have is just logic, just a mental, spiritual process, conceptual one, nothing else. But if you use this fire, then life of the process will start coming. And then you see that first you were forcing something, then you're just giving in to that which is natural, because you will see. Because when the fire is there, when things are there, it starts calling you towards within. There's a force of attraction that pulls you within. And it calls you more and more and more and more, deeper and deeper. And the more deeper you're being called, you know that you're turning your back to the rest. And when things are in the right place, it doesn't matter anymore. Somewhere inside you, in some part, it may still pain, may still hurt, but you know much more now. And you know where you're going to. Not that you have the security that you will arrive, but you're being called, pulled. So you just let go whatever is there that may seem important. You just let go and you continue. And at that point, there's no sacrifice, but it is the same attitude, but in a different understanding. Previously, you were doing something that was causing you much more pain because you knew it was important, but there was no pulling. You were trying to bring that life. Then it becomes natural. Like these yoga postures, bandhas and all of those things. You practice them, you set things in place, you exercise certain things, but they are all natural. And it can happen. It doesn't mean that it has to happen, but it can happen on their own, spontaneously. Asanas, bandhas, all coming into place by themselves. But previously, you exercised them and there was no life of its own in that. But it can come. So yes, God wants all your sources of suffering, all your sources of dependencies, and for you, they are not labeled in this way. These are your sources of security, your sources of happiness. This is how you call them. And your sources of delusion. This is what has to be sacrificed. But it's not a sacrifice. It's common sense. A drug addict, for example, that addiction will destroy him, like all addictions do. But letting go of it will be very, very painful. Go ask him, look, God wants you to let go of that. If he knew any spiritual science or religion or whatever, he would say, no, God doesn't want that from me. I will suffer. God doesn't want me to suffer. I'll just pray from some divine solution to my problem and that will solve it. Or I will just abide in the self. This is the new arguments. No, we don't have to let go anything. We just abide in the self. That is the most nonsensical sentence ever. Like you had any idea of what you're talking about. But you're happy with it, and that's fine. This is a clarification for those who really want to grow, who are really already tired of wasting time with nonsense and with a little life just devoted to crumbs, a pile of crumbs. So sacrifice. Either crumbs or the source. You choose. You're choosing. It's not you choose, you're always choosing. All your decisions are choices, are affirmations that you are making. And it is the emptiness of your spiritual, of the life of the spiritual process, the absence of it, that is the most big message to you. Despite all your logic, everything else, and it's so simple, we just have to be, but where is it? Where is it? We just have to. Where is it? There isn't. Just the same conversation that goes on through years in a row, and the same emptiness, the same shadow following it of emptiness, of emptiness. Sacrifice is the backbone of spiritual practice, of real spiritual practice. The backbone. Everything else is just rhetoric, empty rhetoric. Well, I had to conclude something here. Okay, so let us go. I'm just laughing because I'm reading the comments in the post about sacrifice. And it's, well, it's funny because people don't realize they are just screaming from their lungs. Don't take these precious crumbs from me. And just trying to justify it using intelligence. That is very funny. I will not even comment on it. Because at the end of the day, it's just you with yourself and with the results of your actions. And for a seeker of truth, there's nothing satisfying apart from the life, the presence of the process, and when it's there, you become to know it. And if you're frustrated by the absence of it, you're knowing that it's not there. So that frustration will be a tremendous force that will help you to put things in the right place. Because many times you even know, either by guidance, by indication or some sort, what you need to go through, what you need to sacrifice. And it's difficult. And you postpone it, and you're losing with it, of course, but sometimes it's the only way. And then frustration will be the only force there. And at the end of the day, when you're not distracting yourself, and that means if you're a seeker of truth, you may distract a little bit, but the hunger is there, and it will not be satisfied by anything else. So for you, that has this hunger for liberation, the presence or the absence of life in the process, of guidance, of this inward pulling, this force from within that pulls you into that direction, at all times is pulling you. This is a clear indication, the presence of this or the absence. It's a clear indication of what you're really doing. And this is something that you cannot win in an argument with someone else. Most people go into arguments about these things. They are not talking with others, they are talking to themselves. They are trying to convince themselves and hoping that they are right because they don't know. They want to be right because they have precious things associated with that. So they are just rabbit foots. Salut, je vais répondre à tes questions. Okay, so I'm not reading everything. Okay. I began to catch a glimpse of the expression that says something like no longer having neither father nor mother. My interest in certain relationships is waning, as if it was emptying. In the evening when I go to bed, this phenomenon is reflected in sensations or images. The links are caught in a whirlwind, sucking faster and faster. All these things, okay. Listening to anything other than satsang is a waste of time. Talking about anything else is a waste of time. Apart from that, deep boredom, it makes me dizzy. Perhaps you would say that the real seeker of truth would take the opportunities to set everything on fire. Yes, I would. I recognize the fear of losing interest in the other, in what I thought I was. When I have the strength to say what is going up, I see that there will be no father or mother left. It's dizzying. This is a translation I made through Google from French, so excuse, but we'll make the best of it. So this was the second part that I was talking about. And yes, the real seeker of truth would use this opportunity to set fire on everything and deal with whatever would come immediately, of course, but this is a rare thing, or it's a process. For the majority, for some it is more a longer process than for others, but the timings are important, because not doing anything, it's still doing something. Because, okay, you see someone drowning and you don't reach your hand to save it. You say, I'm not doing nothing. No, you're being an accomplice to the death of that person by not doing anything. So it is the same. If you're not setting things on fire, you're protecting them. So there's no such thing as a neutral position. Either you're pushing towards liberation or holding on towards illusion, maintaining it or increasing it. More or less the same. But let's go on. But this is something, as the process begins to be alive, these things start to be seen. I already talked about different kinds of crises and attachments that arise, and the resistance towards moving ahead. That's one thing. But this is a little bit different. You're seeing where you're being pulled. You're seeing that things are becoming more empty. You don't have interest. The interest that was there is dying, but the character is still precious. And you're seeing where this is going. And you don't want to miss it. You want to hold on to it. You're afraid of what will happen if. It's like in the beginning, a detachment is practiced. But then it comes naturally, if you're done your part. And when it comes naturally, then it's dealing with it in different level. First, you're pushing it without understanding why, the whys. You understand a little bit, but not much. But then you will have to deal with it at another level. You will see where it is going through, where it is going to, and fears will arise that everything that was important will vanish. And yes, and relationships. Father and mother is just an example. It's not a direct example, but it can be. Because all these relationships, family, friend, all these becomes void. It's not that it's void. It's not bad, not good. It's uninteresting. It becomes meaningless. It's like nothing. But for a character that holds all these things very dearly because they are sources for its importance / existence, then losing this, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And by seeing this and knowing, oh, you would say that if it was a real seeker of truth, it would use the opportunity to burn everything down because you know this is what you should be doing. But there's no one like making you, not at this level, not at any level actually. Even when appears to be something saying you have to do this, it's not forcing you, it is helping you to go beyond what you're capable of. Like a fighter, for example, which is on the ring fighting, the coach is there, how do you say this, encouraging, making strong affirmations to it, to give it confidence, and you can do it, and you can go beyond that stagnation, that difficulties that you're arising now. It's always like this. So even when it appears that you're being pushed to things, still you're being helped, but if you go through or if you don't, that is on you. And it is a decision. And not being able, it doesn't exist. It's not believing or believing that makes the difference. It's not about capacity, it's about belief. So in this part of the process, as you feel this emptying of all worldly structures, relationships, topics of interest, all these things being sucked, disappearing, emptying, of course, it is a big moment and a big opportunity to use that which is happening and throw everything else. Those who want it, take it. This I will answer in short. There was a question here. Raghavendra Kumar. My mind is always thinking on the negative side. If I'm in satsang due to circumstances, how to always stay positive at any given point of time? Well, my friend, can you explain this a little better? Because, look, it's not that mind is always thinking on the negative side. It's not about negative or positive. Mind feeds on what it needs to preserve what is there. It could be, you could switch to these positivities or positive thinking or whatever, and you could be feeding different structures but the same illusion. So the mind feeds on what it needs to maintain what is there, its own reality, your reality. And these are compulsory, these are habits formed that maintain the structures of what you perceive as reality. So if you can elaborate a little bit more, what it means always to stay positive. What is the point of that staying positive? In the context of a seeker of truth, it doesn't matter. What matters is keep on working. There's no positivity to entertain, nor negativity to entertain. It's keep the work. And if you're tuned, if you have the calling, life will be there and you will be following it. No need for any thinking whatsoever. So if you want to improve this question, it will help to give a better answer. But remember, whatever is there is just feeding your perception of reality. So your mind will be on the negative side. It's according to your world, to the world that you need to preserve. It can be something else. Many people have different thought processes, different ones. But it's according to the same rule. Always to preserve what is there. I will answer your question now. I have been using a japamala to help me concentrate on mantra chanting, or chanting the mantra, okay. Is it okay to use this? Helps while doing sittings or between sittings? Well, everything helps, but not in the sense, you see, spiritual practice, meditation, mantras, whatever, it's about ritual. And rituals are about energy. Repetition of ritual, it is strengthening the energy, which strengthens determination, strengthens a lot of different qualities that are important to make the practice grow. And it is about increasing the energy of it, making it more easy. So these rituals have an energy of its own, and it helps bring the mind inwards, more in the meditative mood, and helps it go within. So the japamala, for example, if used, if you're feeling that it is, because it is, it's not that it's crucial, but it is important, and if used, it can help a lot. But as a part of the ritual. So it's not, now it is difficult, I will use it or I use it sometimes. No, if you're using it, make it part of the ritual and use it always. Like prayers, how do you say this? Pujas, and all these things. There's a lot of things involved, and in the end, it will make things easier. More easier to go within, more easier to make your meditation, and more easy even to concentrate. Of course, it is all things are the same thing. But never as a tool that I use in a moment of difficulty. Everything is incorporated in the ritual. And the repetition makes it stronger and more stronger. Okay. So for today, that's it. Waiting here. If our there was something previously. I didn't saw this. Wait. My mind is always thinking. I don't know. Oh, it's the same. Just right. It was the same. Well, okay. So next satsang will be. Will be Wednesday. Wednesday, 9:30 in the morning, Brazilian time, UTC -3. Until then, make the best use of your time. Don't waste time. Don't waste time. You see, there are many things that you can do already, even without guidance, without anything. You have the example of so many sages behind you. Follow their footsteps. They are a kind of guidance also. You don't have to invent the wheel. Okay, watch.